What's up guys, this video that you're about to see is actually my input for the collaboration another YouTuber and I are doing by the name of Ian Ingram. You guys should really check out his channel. I talked about him in the last video, but he does a lot of different weapon kind of stuff like I do, so I really think you should check him out. And so the collaboration we were doing is we both have to make a So the collaboration that we were doing is a melee and ranged weapon build, and this is my input. So let's get this video started. So remember in elementary school when you would fold a bunch of pieces of paper and then cut them into weird shapes? You would unfold it and make a snowflake that's perfectly symmetrical all the way around? We're going to be doing exactly that, but for this it's going to be a slingshot, so a lot cooler. So I took a regular piece of printer paper, folded it in half, and now on the folded side I'm going to draw out half of the slingshot. Now I have a perfectly symmetrical template. Now I'm going to take the template and I'm going to trace it out 2 times. One with the grain facing this way, and then one with the grain facing that way, so that it's going to be strong in both directions. I actually got really lucky here. When I was drawing out the slingshot, I didn't account for how wide this thing is, but it's actually perfect, except for about 1/8 of an inch sticking off, but I'd probably file that off anyway. Now that I have both pieces cut out, I'm going to Gorilla Glue them together and then use a rasp and some files to make them flush, because as you can see, they're very off. Actually, I'm just going to be using some wood glue because this has a pretty big surface area to hold together. Now I'm just going to wait for this to dry. Alright, so now I have some TheraBand strip, and I'm going to mark it at 8 inches because I want about a 3/4 of an inch to tie around the slingshot itself. Now I'm using a right angle and I marked out 2 inches. Now I'm drawing the line to 2 inches. I'm going to mark it at 1 inch. And then I marked 1 inch and 2 inch over here, and then I'm going to connect them. Now I have 2 strips of perfectly rectangular 8-inch by 1-inch straps of TheraBand. Now I'm just going to cut them out using some scissors. Now I'm going to make the pouch. So I think this is like 1.5 wide by 3 inches long of some heavy leather, you know, really strong. And now I'm going to fold it in half long ways and cut some holes in it about 1/2 inch from the end. Now I have 2 strips of TheraBand that are really small, and now I'm going to take one of the long strips, the actual rubber on the slingshot. I'm going to feed it through one of the holes, have about 1/2 inch sticking out, pull it back over itself, and start wrapping it with a small strand. Now I'm going to pull it back under itself by wrapping it over my thumb, putting the strand under my thumb, and then pulling it through. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. To check if the bands are aligned, put both ends right up next to each other, pull this straight, and make sure that the leather folds perfectly in half, and mine does. Now I'm going to use this handsaw to cut a groove all the way around the prongs. Okay, so now I have the slingshot, the bands, and 2 strips of TheraBand. Now what I'm going to do is take one of these ends, put it just about a 1/4 inch over the notch, or the groove. Start tightly winding the TheraBand over the band set and in the groove. Then do that on the other side and make sure not to get the bands twisted. Also, when you're shooting this, make sure you never do it like this, because that's really bad for the bands and the little string, or the string band that goes in the grooves. Always do it like this. And also, this will help to avoid hand slaps by like pulling it over the thing so that it doesn't just smack you right in the hand. Now I took the bands off. Now I'm going to sand it very, very fine and then stain it. Now I'm just going to use the handsaw to cut a line all the way down the handle perpendicular to the fork. Now that I have the line cut all the way down the center, I'm going to widen the slot with sandpaper. Now I'm going to take the thickness of my slingshot and draw my blade on this saw blade, and the width of the blade is going to be the thickness of the slingshot. So it's going to look a little bit like that when it's done. Now I'm going to cut this out with my angle grinder. Now I'm going to use a sanding disc on the angle grinder to clean up the surface, the edges, and just get rid of, all the junk on the blade. Now I'm going to use the angle grinder with a cutoff disc to cut some checkerboard lines on either side of the blade that is going into the slingshot, so the tang. I'm going to cut some checkerboard lines so that the epoxy is something to really hold on to so that doesn't go anywhere. Now I'm just going to let this dry. Alright, I wasn't actually going to leave the handle that crappy, so what I'm going to do is cut a long, thin strip out of this leather and then use that to wrap the handle. Now I'm just going to take some of this PVC and hold it over the stove, flatten it out, and once it's flattened out, I'm going to put the blade inside the PVC and push it down as hard as I can so it will form to the thickness of the blade. And then I cut off the excess and painted it black.